Our favorite super mayor, Tiffany Henyard, has something to say to her haters.
Y'all know this is a smear campaign, right? Smear campaign. That's what they do to people that they cannot control, that they cannot get out the way.
She's been causing mayhem in Dolton, Illinois, and here's how she communicates with her fellow trustees. Politicians in or around Chicago aren't exactly known for their exemplary behavior, so this shouldn't come as a surprise, but Tiffany has created a new level of entertaining political theater.
Why do you think it changed?
Because they can't beat me. If they could beat me, they would have went to the polls. But now when I bring the people out, you don't let them in?
The only level of drama that hasn't been reached with Tiffany is her starting an OnlyFans in her office. After seeing this next news story, maybe she'll need to.
Mayor Henyard and her boyfriend, Kamal Woods, are together pulling down well over $300,000 from taxpayers, according to public payroll records. But they haven't paid their rent since August.
If you like corrupt politicians, then you're going to love today's episode of Spot the Fraud. In February 2024, I made a trip to Dolton, Illinois in hopes of talking with the super mayor in person. I went because every day there seemed to be a new scandal involving this lady who kept referring to herself as the super mayor. I then hopped on a call with Tommy G a week later because he was up there filming for his video that's now over 5 million views. I think the interest level in this story is so high because we've always heard about the idea of corruption in politics, but we're witnessing it in real time right now. And with everyone having daily and direct access via YouTube instead of just the local residents, we're all able to see the scandals in real time. Before we get to the mayor completely avoiding paying rent, we're going to spend some time with my old buddy, Officer Lewis Lacey. We were parked on the side of the street strategizing about how to enter the police office and ask about Henyard's actions when a black SUV pulled up next to us. He assertively told us to not pursue Henyard. Well, it turns out Mr. Lacey isn't so clean. This now former police officer was hiding a few things from me. Dolton, Illinois police officer charged in federal court with bankruptcy fraud. Anyone want to guess who? A 9-count indictment charges Lewis Lacey with bankruptcy fraud, making false statements and declarations in a bankruptcy case, and perjury. Each count is punishable by a maximum sentence of 5 years in federal prison. Mr. Intimidation Tactic wasn't able to trick the government this time, but maybe the joke is on us. This wasn't his first time committing bankruptcy fraud. Between in or around 1984 and in or around July 2019, Lacey filed a total of 7 bankruptcy cases in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Northern District of Illinois. How in the world are you going bankrupt when you're employed by the state? This dude has been committing fraud for 4 decades, and we're surprised Tiffany Henyard employed him?
In a more recent case, Lacey is accused of underreporting his income and lying about being separated from his wife, claiming she wasn't contributing to their shared expenses. Prosecutors say Lacey did this to avoid paying back more than $40,000 he owed in a settlement.
Lacey is the archetype of a police officer we should absolutely fear. The guy is a bully with a badge who has no moral code of his own. Dolton is better off with him in prison.
Lacey, now the second ally of self-proclaimed super mayor Tiffany Henyard to face federal charges of bankruptcy fraud. He follows top aide Keith Freeman, who some believe to be cooperating with trustees in their call for an investigation against the mayor.
You did hear that correctly. Lacey isn't the only one in charge in this small town south of Chicago who likes bending the law to fit his wallet. Senior administrator for Dolton, Illinois and Thornton Township, Illinois, charged in federal court with bankruptcy fraud.
This is my prime example of people that's puppet masters trying to control the narrative.
Tiffany, we're not trying to control a narrative. We're just reporting on what's happening with your corruption. The indictment alleges that Freedom made several materially false statements and omissions in the document, including knowingly underreporting income he derived from his employment as both the village administrator for Dolton and the municipality manager for Thornton Township, as well as fees he received from his private consulting business. If she weren't just this dirty, this is how she'd be yelling at these fraudsters while firing them. But she refuses to step down or clean house, so it looks like the federal government is doing it for her.
The federal charges leveled against Lacey separate from accusations shared by Lori Lightfoot, the former mayor and federal prosecutor hired by the village to conduct an independent investigation, sharing her findings last week. Lacey was allegedly paid more than $200,000 in overtime over the last several years, but here's the catch. He's not eligible for OT.
This presentation slide shown to the residents of Dolton shows that Mr. Bankrupt made over $215,000 just in overtime pay across the previous 3 years. Keep in mind that this is a small town of 20,000 people. He's not patrolling the streets of some massive city. Maybe you could justify this pay if there was an outbreak of the Tren de Aragua gang in his area and he was saving lives every night like he was the Batman.
Yes, y'all done ran my name through the mud and did everything.
I think it's time to highlight just how corrupt and incompetent Tiffany Henyard has been as the super mayor. Lori Lightfoot, former attorney and mayor of Chicago, was hired to investigate the finances of the city of Dolton, and her findings were pretty alarming. Certain financial disclosures are mandated by the state, and the village of Dolton hasn't complied since April 2021. These slides were a part of a presentation for the residents of Dolton. This next slide is very representative of the incompetence, and then following, I'll show you their response. Notice how their budget was over $5.6 million in the positive, but is now $3.65 million in a deficit.
Is now in a deficit position of over $5.5 million as of May of 2024.
The residents of Dolton now have a few years of news reports highlighting the corruption in their politics. How can you expect them to not revolt when their tax dollars are being spent so frivolously?
Tiffany Henyard is the mayor of Dolton. She is also the supervisor of Thornton Township. Credit card records show Henyard and her team have charged taxpayers more than $102,000 for trips they've taken in the past year. That includes a stay at the Four Seasons in Atlanta and a $13,000 hotel tab in New York City. Township taxpayers also paid for a trip to Las Vegas.
The supermayor believes she's such a big deal that she needs to fly first class with a large crew. The real problem is these trips are for personal use, not political, which she should cover out of her own pocket.
Who does this? Who lives this way so out loud? It's almost like, I dare you to ask. I dare you to ask me. And I'm just shocked that a leader would think that they could get away with this type of behavior and that no one's going to ask them about it.
The expense for general administration and administrative compensation has increased $3 million in the past few years. The budget for the police department has increased $1.6 million.
The balance in the Illinois Funds account as of June 30th was only $3,900. As of April 30th, 2021, that balance was over $2 million. So the balance of excess cash has dropped by over $2 million in that time period.
Henyard isn't paying rent, the police chief and a trustee are fraudulently claiming bankruptcy, yet over $2 million has gone missing. I wonder where it could have gone. The next slide seemed to elicit the loudest groan from the audience.
We want to highlight a couple of credit card purchases. You're having the same reaction that we did with yourself.
Here's a more clear view. For those without a calculator at home, these three purchases from Amazon total over $43,000. What in the world could a mayor be buying off of Amazon that costs more than a car? Maybe police badges to give to her friends and family? Maybe books on bankruptcy law for her criminal friend Lacey? The next segment is the best part of this.
Our understanding is that the village is not having Amazon account. These are somebody using one of the credit cards and charging these amounts.
$43,000 on Amazon using tax money to pay for personal goods? I mean, seriously, were they buying a car? Tiffany Henyard illegally charged over $16,400 to township taxpayers for a political campaign event. Tiffany is like the employee who gets access to a company credit card for the first time and doesn't understand how money works. The colorful plastic card has infinite magic money on it. Stories like this are so enjoyable to me because you find little nuggets everywhere you look that are just so hilarious. This next bit sums up Tiffany so well. Tiffany sued Allison Key and the other trustees a couple of months ago. The gist of this case is she wanted to have meetings in a different location. Within Exhibit A, there's a statement that Mayor Henyard received countless threats and racial and sexual derogatory communication through mail, phone calls, and social media since taking office. I'm so glad I took the time to read what I thought was an irrelevant exhibit in one of her many lawsuits because I got to read the next few paragraphs. Get ready to die of laughter. Mayor Henyard received hate mail at her mother's residence on July 7, 2024. These actions have placed Mayor Henyard in reasonable fear for her safety. To address this substantiated fear, protocols were put in place for board meetings to prevent potential perpetrators of wrongdoing and ill will towards the mayor from having easy access to her. These threats must be really scary. What were they? Remember, they were sent to her mom's house. The letter was received on Friday, July 5th, 2024, and in the letter that was written in blue marker stated, "See you in prison. Your mother raised a loser. Your mother is a loser." That really sounds like a threatening letter to me. I seriously laughed for probably 5 minutes straight when I read this for the first time. Maybe this is why she allocated millions of dollars to her police department. On September 18, 2024, Janetta Hull filed an eviction on Tiffany Henyard and her boyfriend Kamal Woods.
Janetta Hull says she considered Tiffany Henyard a friend and even did campaign work for the Dolton mayor and Thornton Township supervisor.
The landlord shared that her property taxes increased by $200 a month, which led to her increasing the rent on Tiffany to match the added expense.
Henyard makes nearly $300,000 as mayor and township supervisor, but is the focus of an ongoing FBI investigation for extravagant spending, questionable contracts, and using tax dollars for personal gain.
When you're paying $200,000 in overtime to the police chief, your entire network of frauds, and you run the town with force, do you really think she'd be paying rent?
She says Henyard and Woods refused to pay the extra rent in August, then stopped paying altogether. Did they pay for September?
No.
Did they pay for October?
No.
And that's why you're trying to get them removed?
Yes.
She even had the nerve to post on her Facebook that people been lying and putting these fake stories out on me just for views, likes, and to create a negative public opinion of me. My favorite part of that post is that it includes a video of her criminal defense attorney speaking to the residents, trying to convince them everything is all right, and the real fault of the dysfunction is in the other trustees. A couple months ago, Lawrence Gardner filed a complaint against Tiffany Henyard. The main allegation is that Gardner's property was raided approximately 11 times without a warrant or exigent circumstances as a result of directives of Mayor Tiffany Henyard and Commander Lacey. This excessive use of police force wasn't wielded at Mr. Gardner only. There's another resident with a claim against Tiffany. Before we talk about that, I did some research into Tiffany's attorney. In her complaint filed against her own trustees, Tiffany's attorney is listed at the bottom, McSteven Solomon. Proved by clear and convincing evidence that respondent neglected his client's matter, failed to communicate with his client, and dishonestly converted $12,400 that he should have been safeguarding for his client. This incident led to his license being suspended by the Illinois Supreme Court in March 2024. He also lost an appeal against his baby mama for failure to pay child support. This certainly isn't meant as an attack against the guy, but Tiffany loves hiring people with massive flaws, doesn't she? Similar to Lawrence Gardner, Stephanie Weideman filed a complaint against Tiffany Henyard. Weideman expressed her belief that Mayor Henyard is misusing her office to enrich herself and her political allies and has misappropriated public funds for her own private gain. Defendant Mayor accused plaintiff of stalking her based on plaintiff's attendance at public board meetings and events hosted by Mayor Henyard. Henyard has weaponized her authority over the Dolton Police Department to harass, intimidate, and arrest plaintiff for her protected speech and participation in her local government. For anyone wanting to follow these really entertaining news stories, check out any of the YouTube channels I have listed on the screen. Huge thanks to those news organizations for their media coverage, as I couldn't make this video without them. Thanks for watching.